Life can change in an instant. If you've been hurt in an accident, suffered from medical negligence, or are facing criminal charges, you don't have to face it alone. At Ryan Miller and Coburn, we're here to listen and fight for you. We're your neighbors, traveling across Montana to stand by your side as your link to justice. Real people, real help, right here in Montana. Ryan Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys.
Thinking about selling your home in Missoula? Here's the truth. Buyers are still out there, but they're being picky. That means how you market your home matters more than ever. I'm Ty Hobbs with Hobbs Homes at Keller Williams, and my job is to make sure your listing stands out. From strategic pricing to professional marketing, stunning photography, and targeted advertising, I'll position your home to attract the right buyers and get you the best price possible. In today's market, it's not just about putting a sign in the yard, it's about telling your home story, creating urgency, and negotiating every dollar in your favor. If you've been on the fence about selling, now's the time to talk strategy. Let's see what your home could sell for and how we can make it happen.
Thanks for breakdown, SkylineSportsMT.com. Brooks Nuanez joining us here to talk all things Big Sky Conference. We'll talk a little bit of Griz, a little bit of Cats, and a little bit of big picture in the Big Sky. We're sort of officially into the second half of the football season. Montana 7-0, riding a 7-game winning streak. Montana State 5-2. Both of them ranked in the top 5. We'll start with this, Brooks. Last week they came out with the FCS playoff committee rankings. Do you read into any of this stuff, or do you care at all? Kyle Sample thinks that this is literally just a publicity ploy, that they just released this to get people to talk about it a month before the actual rankings come out. What say you? Does it matter who's ranked ahead of who and where we're at in the top 10 of the FCS committee playoff committee polls?
I mean, it always matters, right? In some ways, if you're sitting down, deep down the polls, you have work to do. And if you're sitting up top, you're probably going to, control your own destiny. So as far as the talking point and releasing it for this or that, I think that's probably true. I don't think that it's necessary to release it and not let it be true at the end of the season. So that means if the top 4 or 5 teams don't lose at the end of the season, I think it would switch around, which is funny, right? So that being said, I think the committee will do all they can to make it a really balanced bracket and make it so that, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State don't see each other in the quarterfinals or something. If losses were to happen, I think that they would manipulate it in a way that's good for the country, good for the FCS as a whole. Not like it's, tampering with it by any means, but I do think that they would maybe drop a team down a spot or two just to make sure that it's a really good bracket.
Well, here's to me why it doesn't matter right now, because Montana State still hasn't played UC Davis or Montana, and that's coming the last 2 weeks of the year. Montana State. Montana still has to play Montana State. And North Dakota State and South Dakota State play on Saturday. So we got some of the biggest matchups in the country still on the horizon. So here's the thing. No matter who's gotten beat or hasn't gotten beat, at the end of this, I think it has a chance to be one of the fairest brackets of all time, because not only did we have, of course, Montana State played each other, but you got Montana State playing UC Davis. You got North Dakota State and South Dakota State playing each other, and Montana State played South Dakota State. You obviously don't have any NDSU crossover with the Montana schools, and the Griz skip UC Davis this year. So maybe they could be a little bit more equitable at the end, but that's still a lot of crossovers between the top, 4 of the top 6 teams. So certainly I'm interested to see how that all plays out. And here's the deal. If you're the Griz, for example, and you run the table, you're going to take care of your own destiny. If you're the Cats and you run the Cats are the ones that might need a little bit of help otherwise, because they do have the 2 losses, right? If the Cats run the table and win in Missoula, they still could get slotted 3rd depending on what happens with NDSU and South Dakota State. But most likely, I think the winner of the brawl is going to get a top 2 seed.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, I think if you beat a top 4 team in a game like that, I think it holds a lot of weight. And again, I think for the bracket's sake, I think that having North Dakota State and South Dakota State somewhere opposite of each other is probably the best move. And obviously this weekend, a lot will play out with those 2 playing each other. Do you know what the line is on that game, Colter?
I have not actually seen a line. Let's find one.
I just looked. Guess.
It's in Brookings, right?
Mm-hmm.
North Dakota State is 8.5 point favorite in Brookings.
What I have right now is South Dakota State by 6.
South Dakota State's favorite.
That's what I got on the first link I clicked on, which, reputable or not, I can find. Let's click another link and see what we get to.
Wow, that's surprising, honestly. South Dakota State's pretty good, but I thought North Dakota State's been the most impressive team by quite a bit. So
Let's see what the Action Network has. Usually pretty reputable. Action Network has South Dakota State or North Dakota State by 2.5.
okay.
So somewhere in the middle there, I'd say that North Dakota State would be favored. The Vegas lines, the Vegas Insider website that I went to is usually pretty accurate day of, but this is obviously half of a week in advance. But another website I'm looking at reads the same as South Dakota State being slight favorites. So
Interesting. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is this sort of endless debate that we have going on right now between, and we've talked about this a lot. This is sort of like the standard of this podcast, which, by the way, this podcast is brought to you by Ryan Miller and Coburn Law, your Montana attorneys. You like legal help, especially in the criminal defense realm, visit rmcattorneys.com or call them 406-542-2233. Ryan Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. So there's this endless, this encompasses Griz athletics as much as anything else, but it's also just the standard in the state of Montana, particularly when it comes to football. Are we analyzing these teams based on the best 4 teams in the country or the 124 teams that exist in the FCS? And there's been a ton of debate right now going on because on one hand, Montana is leading the league in basically every offensive category. They're at least top 3 in every offensive category. They have this unbelievable offensive trio of Kale Ayat at quarterback, Eli Gilman at running back, and Michael Wortham at receiver. And he also spliced in Brooks Davis, who earlier this week was named to the Jerry Rice Award watch list, which I thought deservedly so. He's certainly one of the best freshmen in the country. It gives you a lot of offensive firepower. They're averaging over 40 points per game. They've scored 40 plus basically week in and week out here this last month. And they've really turned the corner offensively just in terms of play calling and explosiveness and excitement. I mean, aesthetic appeal. They're certainly way better to watch offensively than they have been, I mean, basically at any time since probably before the pandemic even, when they had Samori Torre and Sammy Akim and guys like that. So that's all to say that they deserve a ton of credit for that offensive performance. Yet I still think that the weakest part of their team is their offensive line. And that's where the standard comes in, right? Are we comparing the Griz offensive line to Norfolk State or Chattanooga or Delaware State or West Georgia? Are we comparing Montana's offensive line to North Dakota State or South Dakota State or Montana State? Then that's where the dichotomy comes in, right? Are you better than everybody else and not good enough over here? It is an interesting analysis. But first of all, before we get into the stacking up who's best or who's better, how would you describe the way Montana's been able to be so productive offensively, even without dominating the line of scrimmage with their offensive front?
I mean, just a variety would be my answer. Is that they're being so multiple on offense. Usually, when I'm staring down the barrel of a camera, Colter, I will have a pretty good feel for what teams are doing. Here's a run play. Here's a pass play. Here's a run play. Here's a pass play. They should probably get to play action soon. Ooh, there's a play action. Ooh, here comes a tunnel screen. Got it. And with this Griz team, it's about as variable and challenging as I've ever really photographed. I mean, they'll come out against, like last week against Sacred Heart, and I'm thinking, all right, well, Finoti gets the rock. It's going to be a Finoti game. They're going to run it, 9 times on this first drive, and then all of a sudden Ayat is just passing it all over the yard, pass after pass after pass. I'm like, what is? I didn't anticipate this, right? So I think that is kind of where they're really having success, is they're getting really unique scripts drawn up, and then during the game, they're getting back to things that work, but also finding deeper things in the playbook throughout the entire game, which is really awesome to see. And I think it relies and really shows a lot of Keely Ayat's maturity as he's grown through this season. That's not easy to do, to get deep in the playbook in the third quarter, fourth quarter. Obviously, you prep for stuff like that. There is a piece of it of like, hey, we're going to get to this at some point in the game. So you are preparing for that after your script, after your first drive or two. But still, not an easy thing to do to be so efficient with some of that more complex, deep playbook stuff. So I think obviously they have some playmakers, but I think it's being so multiple. I think the play calling has really, as you mentioned on top there, has really allowed the team to play loose and the team to play with a lot of confidence.
There's also this dynamic too, where I think that because Montana's played largely a slate of overmatched opponents, I'd say North Dakota and Idaho are probably the outliers there, but everybody else sort of knew. First of all, they're coming in to watch the Grizzly Stadium. I think that's a huge factor in all of this because they know that they're coming in sort of the belly of the beast. They're going to be, double-digit underdogs, etc. So everybody has been basically saying, we're going to load the box and make Ayat beat us. And now he's got 300-yard passing games. So maybe teams stop doing that. Like, at what point has he earned the respect, I guess? But Bobby Hauck said this after the game last week. He said, this is Montana's win over Sacred Heart, in case you missed this. He said, a lot of eyes on the run game, obviously, and when teams are doing that, you have to make them defend the pass, period. You have to make them defend depth, and if you don't, you're going to be uphill most of the game. Good job by Ayat. Good job by the guys completing the plays in the end zone, and good job by the offensive staff with the play calling. So that's been sort of the story. They've been getting the box loaded up on them, and everybody's been basically saying, okay, we dare you to beat us, and now Ayat has. As the opponents get tougher and the season progresses, do you think we see that change, or is that just going to be sort of the status quo of what the Griz face defensively? And if so, it must be it's a huge advantage if Ayat can stay hot.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think throughout the season, if you're playing a high-powered offense like this Griz team, you're better off banking on Ayat throwing a pick or something than you are letting Gilman go nuts. Gilman going nuts is a guaranteed loss for anybody in the country. If Gilman goes 175-3, you're losing. You are losing that game. So let Ayat cook.
Especially because he can break you like that too. Because like he looks like a power back, but he's not a power back. He's a big play back, right? Like when he goes for 175-3, it's because he got 2, 2, 2, 60, 3, 4, 7, 75, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh man, we're getting completely rolled in this matchup right now.
Yep. So I think that's probably the play of pick your poison, and you got to think of a young guy like Ayat who, didn't look awesome the first couple games, serviceable, sure, but was throwing some picks and trying to find his way still. So I think pick your poison. That's probably the best bet. If you get Rocker, Finotti going too. The run game is probably something that you're going to need to stop to have a chance.
Yo, Tara, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yeah.
Nuanez Now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. The Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to chasing more champions.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again? Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from...
Love new friends around here. And on the Griz note, the fine folks at DraftWorks have crafted a beer called Up With Montana Lager, and they are donating part of the proceeds from each of the beers sold to the general name, image, and likeness fund at the University of Montana. So you can basically support student athletes by drinking local beer that is brewed in Missoula. We just sat down with the guys at DraftWorks yesterday. They have great passion for what they're doing, both from a beer making perspective and also for a supporting of the University of Montana as a whole and the athletic department. It's been very fun to get to know those guys, and they certainly are doing great things in the community. So if you are going tailgate, I know it's an away game, but maybe you're picking up some beers at the store, consider picking up some Up With, because it is a good, nice, sessionable light beer, and you can certainly have yourself a few of them and be having a great time, but also you're going to be donating to a greater cause by helping out with the NIL. Brooks, you've worked in the beer space for a long time. I know you've enjoyed getting to know these guys at DraftWorks too.
Well, absolutely, man. And there's so many game days where everyone's drinking, this out of state beer that we all know, and you can get anywhere. And there's an option to trade up and drink local beer that's made at DraftWorks. It's going to be very familiar to you. It's going to taste like delicious beer. And we always talk about, you can't always go to every fundraiser. You can't go to every gala. You can't necessarily just donate cash to these programs. You can drink a beer and support an athlete. Pretty cool opportunity. Upwith from DraftWorks is doing great things.
We will have a lot of opportunities for you to engage with DraftWorks as a whole. We'll be giving you some opportunities to go to the tap room, both here on the Big Sky Breakdown as well as on our ESPN radio product, Nuanez Now. And probably going to have some swag for you, courtesy of DraftWorks as well. So appreciate having those guys on board. And we got to mention this, Griz play in Sacramento Friday night. Press Box, one of our fine sponsors here at the Big Sky Breakdown. That's going to be the place to go. I am going to go down there and watch the game, I believe, there at 8:30 on Friday night. But they'll be having an Upwith event down there at DraftWorks, or excuse me, on courtesy of DraftWorks at the Press Box. So if you want to go have some DraftWorks, have some Upwith with the fine folks from DraftWorks at the Press Box, please do. They're going to be hosting these events for all the Griz away games. Crazy to think this is only the second Griz away game, so they have multiple of these coming up, even though we're 8 games into the season by the time Friday rolls around. But we'll keep you up to date with where DraftWorks will be in the coming weeks. But it's Friday night at the Press Box, so come hang out with us at the Press Box and come have yourself some Upwith Montana lager. Okay, let's talk Cats for a minute, and then we'll come back to the Griz because I have a question about the Cats as well. I guess, first of all, give me one last thought on the Griz, just in total, because, it is our job to analyze and be critical. And that's why we do this for a living. I mean, that is the thing that we are paid to do, is to dissect everything from both a good and a bad perspective. And right now, I think that the Griz are as fun to watch offensively as any team since probably I was in college. I mean, they're very fun to watch. Michael Wortham is already an all-time favorite Griz to me, the way he operates and his swagger and his dance moves and all that stuff. It's hard to not like the guy. And I just love the way Ayat's playing. I feel very vindicated in being a very big proponent of his natural talent and sort of standing up for him and thinking that he had a chance to be really special. And now I think he is. He's playing like that. He's playing like a top-tier guy. So with where the Griz are at as a team, what do you think of the position that they put themselves in? Because they are very good and very improved in certain ways. So we have to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I mean, just to make a quick note, Colter, you said to analyze the good and the bad. It's it's just the truth. So we're just analyzing the truth here.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, we have some opinions, but also spend a lot of time looking at it. Getting pretty good at dissecting what's actually happening. The Griz are in a really good spot because in football, Colter, you have to score to win. That's not how Bobby Hauck's always like to do it. That's not how some teams' philosophies see it. That's not how a lot of the most visible football played in America in the NFL goes. But in football, you cannot win with 0 points. No one ever has. No one ever will. Right. And you have to outscore the other team to win. If that's 3-0, that's fine. If that's 45-42, so be it. The Griz have the opportunity to take the lid off this thing, take the top off of everything that they do offensively, which makes them a very challenging out no matter what. They continue to play well, take care of business, especially at the end of the season, in the end of November. Then you have a slate of home games throughout the playoffs where this offense should be humming. And if that is the case, they have a really nice path to go to Nashville. So would I necessarily mold the team to look just like this? Probably not. With Bobby Hauck, I would say probably not. But what they have right now and what they're doing with the talent that they have, I think is as good as you could probably have performed on offense. And then defensively, you have to assume that if everything starts to click, they're going to be a really tough team. Yeah,
that's right. They're nowhere close to as good as they're going to be defensively. And part of that comes from just the reps of all the guys that are new in the defense, but also part of that is going to come from getting your best cornerback. I think that's going to unlock a lot of stuff if and when Keon Loud can come back. And I think the third thing is that they're continuing. I mean, they basically are having, I'm not going to say position battles, but like they're having platoons across the board defensively. And the fact that they have been able to do that and still win 7 games in a row, there is going to be a moment where it's like nut cutting time and like Micah Harper doesn't come off the field, or like he plays most of the game instead of half the game, right? Like that. So that's just going to help them turn the corner a lot, I think.
It's very easy for us to sit here and be critical of it because it is not the most efficient and or productive way to go day to day, play to play.
Sure.
But in the long term, this is what Bobby Hauck has done. This played a lot of guys already. Okay. And then by November, you're playing your best guys and you're playing your best football. And again, it's easy to be critical week to week because you want the Griz, who are a top team, to be blowing teams out and party on a pile and getting 7 sacks in a game. But really what they're doing is building depth, which is going to help in the long run. You always gotta say, though, if you're building depth, you just got to hope that you don't get unlucky and have some real key injuries.
Well, as I was talking with Samuel Kim about this in the press box last week too, we give Montana State praise for rolling so many guys through. And I think sometimes the thing that affects the optic analysis of this is that, like, I have no problem with the Griz rolling their linebackers because I think that all the guys that they play at linebacker are good. And I don't think – like, I think that the best ones are Payton Wing and Elijah Tolbert and probably Solomon Tulia-Pupu, who was out last week with a family thing, but he should be back. But, like, when they put in Oven and Otluski and Gino Leonard, like, those guys are all pretty good still. So you don't really – like, I have no criticism of that. Like, they always rolled linebackers. They've always been successful at rolling linebackers. And I think all those guys are adequate players. It's more – like, I think Harper is – to me, Harper is one of the best players on their team in terms of pure talent. Like, he had that close on Jack Snyder last week where he ran from like 30 yards away, and he looked NFL fast on that play. Like, he was such fast closing speed, such a good open field tackle. He's a superior athlete to most of the other guys. And this is not to dog on their backup safety because I think those guys are good, solid players. He's just way better. That's the gap that I'm talking about, right? So that's where I wonder if they get locked in. They did this in 23 when they were rotating a bunch of guys, but then they decided, okay, like Trevor Gradney, Corbin Walker, and Trajan Cotton are going to play 80% of the snaps. And then that's when they started locking teams up, in November and down the stretch. The Cats, I think that one thing they benefit from so much is there isn't that much of a disparity in the guys that they rotate. Certainly on the D line, like when Paul Brott and Kenneth Iden and Zach Cruz come off the field, their other D linemen are good, but they're not those guys. But they also do a good job of mixing and matching so there's like a group with 1 or 2 of the headliners with the other guys too. I guess what I'm saying is that it's there is some nuance to when we say, wow, Montana State does such a great job of this, and wow, Montana maybe shouldn't do this as much. There is sort of a middle ground between the two because I think that in the long run, I think it benefits everybody involved if you can have this much cultivated depth going into November.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my only critique of the rolling, I'm fine with rolling guys. My only critique is the lack of mixing up the combos.
Yes.
I just don't like that Cade Cutler and Cade Boyd have only played together. Like, you can play them both, but why not give them a chance to play with Diesel Wilkinson? Like, they only have to play together, and then they only play when Gino Leonard plays. It's like, why not just kind of mix it up a little bit more? Like, because if one guy gets hurt and now Cade Cutler's starting, he's never played with this other safety really at all, even though he's played 25 snaps a game.
Yes. That's one thing the Cats do so well is like when it's Xavier Aaron's turn, number 43, the freshman that they're playing at linebacker. It's basically right now it's Cole Taylor and Bryce Grebe are the top 2. And then they've been rotating. Daly's back now, so he'll be in the mix a little bit. But then Aaron's has been getting some spot duty there as like the kind of the 4th guy. But when they put him in with Brott, so then Brott can like carry the day for him. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's what you're getting at, right? Like
absolutely
let those other guys play with Kenzel Lawler so the safeties can be with the best corners and have the best chance to succeed.
It's been scripted in a way of like so many times they've punted or turned the ball over and then those guys go in because that's just where it reads on the card almost. It's like sometimes it's not right to put those guys in after a turnover and then they go get scored on. That happened 2 or 3 times early in the season, if not more. It probably happened most of the scores they were giving up was this like change of possession, backups go in. And again, I understand the philosophy there. It just seems a little bit rudimentary. Like you could get a little bit more creative with it. That would be my only critique. I think you should play as many guys as you can always. I just think that mixing it up is probably the right move.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Right down the road, pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Shine Beer Sanctuary is leading the charge when it comes to promoting beer culture in Montana. Located at the corner of Church and Main and downtown Bozeman, the locally owned and operated tap house and bottle shop has the best beer selection in the Treasure State. The bar has 32 rotating beers on tap with everything from Duvel to local ciders, gluten-free beers, and non-alcoholic options. The bottle shop has more than 400 beer offerings from all over the world, and Shine offers Cicerone-trained beer guides. Come enjoy beer heaven at Shine Beer Sanctuary in Bozeman.
Montana State side of things, it is the Big Sky Breakdown. SkylineSportsMT.com, Brooks Nuanez, Colter Nuanez. Represented by Shine Beer Sanctuary. Shine Beer Sanctuary is an awesome place in Bozeman to go enjoy yourself. Some delicious beverages. They have a ton of beers on tap from all over the world. They also have probably the premier bottle shop in the entire state of Montana with over 400 specialty beers. They also have fun events coming up all the time, including a pumpkin carving contest coming up here this Saturday. They are located there on Main Street in downtown Missoula, thanks to Shine Beer Sanctuary, or downtown Bozeman, excuse me. Thanks to Shine Beer Sanctuary for their continued support of us here at the Big Sky Breakdown. Okay, so Montana State it's been interesting because they've sort of quietly done what they've done because of their 0-2 start and because of the year that they came off of last year and all the turnover that they had. But right now, they've outscored their Big Sky opponents 137-29. And after the Eastern Washington game, we were sitting there thinking, wow, Eastern's the worst team in the league. Well, Cats looked great, but man, Eastern's terrible. Eastern's won 2 in a row now, and they beat Idaho last week. So I think part of that's Idaho's on a slide for sure, but maybe Eastern isn't that bad. I've been thinking more and more about how the Cats don't have nearly the hype around them as a lot of the other top teams, especially the Griz, but also, of course, North Dakota State and South Dakota State do as well. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it is that the Cats don't have nearly as much of the hype train going right now, despite the fact they've been utterly dominant in Big Sky Conference play through 3 games?
Well, you lose your 2 premier games of the year, and that's just, I think people kind of put you in the back seat, and that's probably the right way to look at it. They have not been one of those 3 or 4 teams like the Dakota States and Tarleton State, who I don't know enough about to really have an opinion on. I know that they're kind of an upstart. When I saw them last year, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, they're good. I watched them against West Georgia this week. Here's my evaluation of Tarleton State. They're a very good FCS team. And I think they're a team that's a scary team that's going to be on the rise because of where they're at in Texas and the facilities that they have. And they have a real stadium. I mean, their stadium's like comparable with Bobcat Stadium and all that. I think they're coming for sure. If Tarleton State played Montana State, or UC Davis on a neutral field, I think that they lose by double-digit points. And I think if they played – I think Tarleton State and Northern Arizona would be a really good game.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that being said, I think Montana State is right up there with all these teams. It's just that record, and it's just kind of the visual. Everyone, the optics of seeing them get crushed by a really elite Oregon team and then lose at home to South Dakota State in overtime, which was, a game that probably could have gone either way. It came down to a couple of yards, right? So that's probably why that's the case. And honestly, for the way that they've been in the driver's seat for the last couple of years, it might be a really good thing for them to kind of be that 3rd or 4th or 5th best team in the country and have a chip on your shoulder. I think that, playing from playing with the lead at all times can be taxing, and you always have that quote unquote target on your back. I think that they could sneak up on some people who think that, they're not one of those 3 elite teams. I think that they'll give you everything they got.
It's also going to be very interesting to see how teams defend them, because the first 6 games of the year, everybody loaded up the box like to the maximum on Montana State, and they still ran the ball okay. But it was mostly the passing game and Justin Lamson hitting on all the little mesh routes and even throwing some deep balls that really opened things up. And that's what carried the day in all of Montana State's wins up until last week. Well, then Idaho State, they were running some funky zone stuff that was really designed to take away all that mesh stuff that they've been doing, and the Taco Dell, Jabez Woods crossing routes that have been so hard for people to stop. And what did the Cats do? They went back to the ground. They rushed for almost 400 yards. They were running real, read option concepts with Lamson. And but before sacks, he rushed for almost 100. So now you have it on film where you can do both, right? Like if a team decides to take away your passing, oh, yeah, we can still go and buckle down and rush for 375 yards. You want to load the box? That's fine. We got a quarterback who's completing 75% of his passes, and he's red hot. So now I think you got a little bit of a pick your poison on either side. It's just like we were talking about with the Griz. I think it's the same thing that's the reality for the Cats. And I think as the Cats offense continues to diversify, man, look out. Because I think if they can if they stay healthy, the offensive line continues to improve, Lamson stays locked in, and there's just more of a program-wide comfortability with being an actual balanced team, I think it actually makes your offense unstoppable, at least until you get to the penultimate parts of the season. So it's been interesting to watch the way they've been diversified, and now I think they have a chance to really hammer the gas pedal and remind the rest of the country that they are one of the best teams in the nation.
Yeah, no doubt. And they've become so balanced with the development of their run game, and the offensive line has improved. We've talked a lot about the young receivers coming along, kind of a group that you thought maybe it was these 3 or 4 guys, and it ends up being a different group of real impact players. Woods and Steele and guys that maybe were depth guys that are really making an impact on the offense. And I think as the offensive line continues to develop, and you have Lamson being efficient and getting the ball in such using such an accurate passing game, once the running backs start to go like they have the last 2 weeks or so, I mean, then you really have a balanced attack, and they become so lethal because the identity of running the football has been a part of Montana State for the last 6, 7, 8 years. But I think it's now they have that balance of being able to pass the ball in a different way with different playmakers and being a little bit more creative in that sense. I think that Montana State is really, really tough, man. I mean, defensively, they're stout, and they're not a bend don't break defense. They are a steel curtain kind of defense up to this point of the season. So as they continue to develop, I think that the sky's the limit for this Montana State team.
Yeah, the one thing that I think everybody that's watched them would point to that they just have to shore up is the special teams. And I don't know how you go about doing that other than just continue to emphasize it, right? Going through the growing pains, because there's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as guys, it's kind of throughout all of college football, at least like a 5-year guy, even a 4-year guy. When coaches talk about week to week getting better, it is true. And you can have it click to where you have 2 really good punt coverage reps in a game where it makes more sense to you. You didn't get out leveraged. You kept your edge secure. You may have made a tackle in a way that you hadn't really performed like that in a football game, and it gives you a little confidence. So while I think it is tough, I've talked about throughout the year, Colter, is that there's not like a crazy amount of punt protection that you can run. What you got is what you kind of got. Sure, you can rotate guys in, but what your kind of system is it's really hard just to like blow it up and run something different. There's not like there's 15 different punt protections that a team could just implement in 1 year. You have 3 or 4 of them. So you got to just be really, physical and engaged with what you're trying to do. But as the season kind of wears on, I do think that young guys can take a huge step. Let's say that you had a good week last week. or the week before the bye, had a good bye week. Now that you're talking about like a 3-week span of improvement where there's only one game played, and then you go into that second game within the 3 weeks, and you can be a different player. You can get a little bit healthier. Your class schedule got different. Your girlfriend loves you a little bit more. Things can happen where things can open up for these young players. So I don't think that it's necessarily completely unheard of to really improve in that third dimension of the game.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Okay, back to the Griz side of things. Big Sky Breakdown, SkylineSportsMT.com. Right now, the Griz have 3 guys that are statistically dominant in the FCS realm, and especially in the Big Sky. Kaylee Ayat's leading the league in passing. He's won Player of the Week twice in the Big Sky already. Michael Wortham leads the country in all-purpose yards, and he's had 3 100-yard games already. And Eli Gilman is the leading rusher in the Big Sky Conference. And he leads the country in rushing touchdowns, and he's in the top 5 in the country in rushing yards. Which of those 3 would you be promoting internally if you were Montana as your top Walter Payton Award candidate?
It's interesting. I mean, Wortham is going to have a harder time just with the comprehension of all-purpose yards. I mean, obviously football hardos get it and understand the impact that he can make. But when you look at, someone who's going to have 35 catches or maybe 50 catches at most, and maybe, 30 runs, bunch of punt returns, kick returns. It's just a little bit less of this like power punch that you have with the all-purpose yards, even though that, again, people who really know get it. Gilman has been on the national scene, so I think he probably has the most ability to be the face of this thing. But Ayats probably has the if you watch the games, probably has the most juice this season. Which you need that. You need momentum. It's not a steady Eddie that usually wins the Payton. It's someone that really goes out and takes it. Eli Gilman obviously has that ability with the big playability. We'll see how it goes down the stretch. But I would say Gilman is probably the guy just due to the national prevalence he already has. Yeah. But if it was me and it was deep down, I think that Ayat's he can make a run at it if he keeps throwing for 400 yards.
Well, it's been so hard for anybody but quarterbacks to win it, too. Derek Robertson from Monmouth, who was sort of the leader in the clubhouse for this thing, he separated his shoulder last week, so that actually might give it a little bit of an opening in the race. I know you got to go, so last question. Montana State has spread it all around, so they don't really have any receivers that are I mean, Taco Deller's had a great impact. He's got good numbers, but they're not nationally reputable in terms of what it takes to win the Payton, especially as a pass catcher. Adam Jones has got, I think, 7 touchdowns, so he's got a few for sure. But nowhere close to the yardage that some of the guys that'll be semifinals or finalists. But do you think the Cats should push for Justin Lamson, given just the efficiency that he's been operating with?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to have the prolific stat line, right? So, I mean, pushing for it, there's no reason not to, I guess. But are you going to run a full campaign? He'd probably have to be a little bit more diverse in the run game. If he adds another 7 or 8 touchdowns in rushing touchdowns, then you could probably talk about that diversity. But a guy who's going, 13 for 17 for 225 yards probably is not going to be a Payton candidate. Just with guys like the Monmouth guy, who I know got hurt. I was aware, but not aware. I looked up his stat line. I mean, come on, dude. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, they're throwing for like 375 yards a game. That's like all they do now is just air it out.
There was a time where Ayat had 10 touchdowns and he had 22 or something. I mean, we're talking about a whole different thing. So this is a stat-based award, and whether that's good, bad, and different, it just is. It's for the most prolific statistical guy in the country, and there's usually guys around that put up some things that you really haven't heard of. So,
okay, last thing for you: Montana at Sac State Friday night. I think Montana State has to take care of business in San Luis Obispo on Saturday. I think we already know that. I think Cal Poly will give a little resistance, but I think that 16.5-point line is probably just about right. I think the Cats will be, challenged, but certainly in control of that game. But Friday night in Sacramento, Griz are 3.5-point favorites. What do you make of just all of the bluster that has gone into this game? Does that help or hurt either side in Friday night in Sacramento?
I'm usually kind of all for a little smack talk, I guess. It doesn't really bother me. This is definitely crossed the line. I think it's pretty unprofessional. It's not just because, I live on one side of this thing and I'm not some diehard Sac State guy or anything. It's mostly just the tone and the temperature of the whole thing. It comes off as pretty needy. It comes off as something that for me is the class. I mean, the president said it. Any exposure is good exposure. Sure. We're talking about Sac State, you and I right now. So they're living in our heads rent free, right, Colter? Griz by a million.
Griz by a million is right. The fact that Bobby Young was zen on Monday for the first time in the last 20 years was pretty indicative of how he's going to have his team ready, right?
I hope Payton Wing doesn't get ejected.
The way he tackles and the way he naturally just throws himself, I don't know how he's gonna. I feel bad for him. That's
over under 2 more targeting ejections this year.
Oh, he's gonna get it reviewed for sure over 2 more times for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying he's a dirty player. I think the way he tackles is phenomenal. I love it. I think it's
how you're supposed to tackle.
It's Alex Singleton-esque. He's that type of a tackler for sure.
Head across the bow, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. Launch your hips, throw them, use some authority. Yeah, he's fun to watch for sure. It's funny because I hate targeting, and I don't think anybody should get thrown out for targeting. But in the spirit of the rule,
in the open field, you should be able to be.
Totally. Last week that was targeting. He got lucky.
Yeah, but that was also in the box. In the box, I think it's completely. It was a screen pass, but in the one where he got ejected when he was behind the guy, he was in trail.
Yeah,
and kind of ear hold him. It's it's the guy who goes up as a receiver and gets hit as he can't protect himself. He takes a shot to the head. That's targeting. That's a fine rule. That is a really dangerous play. But in the box, if you go head to head, you go head to head every play in the box.
Right.
I mean, it's that play was sure a guy caught a little screen pass or whatever and turned around and got cleaned. But within the hashes there, you got to expect that's going to happen. It's more of that open field in the air, that kind of stuff I'm fine with.
Thanks. I break down SkylineSportsMT.com. Thanks to all our fine friends. Just a reminder, if you want to go watch the game, Pressbox is hosting an event in collaboration with DraftWorks, and they'll have Up With Montana Lager on tap and available for you to sample. And we'll have some fun stuff coming up courtesy of DraftWorks here moving forward. Anything else to add before I get you out of here?
Nope. I need to clean my house, so hopefully our flights got canceled to California. Oops.
Very good. Well, we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.